Hello and welcome back to the channel. I'm John Iadarola. This is my personal channel. If you just happen to click over here, feel free to subscribe. This is not Think Tank, this is not the main channel, but this is the video in which I'm going to talk about my experience watching Cenk Uygur and Ann Coulter have their little debate at Politicon. So I was lucky enough to go there, we had our live show, but perhaps the main event for most people was the debate. It was a huge room. I have no idea how many people. If you said it was 500, if you said it was 1,000, I'd believe you. And so Cenk and Ann Coulter are about to square off. Now, I've been preparing for this for about a week since I found out about it. And people around the office have been talking about what strategy should Cenk use to highlight how crazy Ann Coulter is. And they have good strategies. But the whole time I had been thinking, Ann Coulter is a shrill, harpy spider of a woman, but she is very experienced in this business. She has been criticized as much as anyone else in the world, justifiably so. And so she's very used to taking the criticism, not being fazed by it. I mean, it's literally killing her. You can see it, but she spiritually at least persists, and not backing down from the things that she says sometimes. And evading any sense of personal responsibility or compassion for the people that she attacks. So she has all of that experience that she can defend herself with. And like a greased skeletal snake, if you try to grab her to choke her, she's just gonna get out of your hands. That was what I was thinking. But overall, while I was watching this, after I was watching it, thinking back on it, she was a huge disappointment. Ann Coulter is not what she's cracked up to be. This is why I don't think she does debates like this most of the time. This is why perhaps the people who used to have her on cable news don't have her anymore. She's no mastermind. She's barely clever. She's no... I'm trying to think of the villain of 101 Dalmatians. You get what I'm saying, Cruella de Vil. She's not as clever as her. Because when Cenk would do what he did, and what he did was read some of her most awful quotes, sections from her books, tweets, things like that, she would defend herself in the exact same way every time. So she would begin speaking. In the first 30 seconds, she would say something horrific. She would say that we should randomly nuke the Middle East, various parts, doesn't matter what. She would call Mexico a peasant culture or an inferior culture. And then, rather than simply being willing to stand by that comment, she would then speak for 5 minutes about absolute nonsense, in the way that Donald Trump and Sarah Palin do, not apparently having any idea what she's going to end up with when she starts talking. She just begins talking in various directions. So that if you then reference the earlier thing afterward, you look like you're nitpicking, and she can say, oh, well, you're attacking my whole point then, when you're just trying to point out that she said something absolutely dreadful. And everybody can acknowledge that it was a horrible thing to say. And that's not courageous. That's not brave. She can take booing. I will give her that. Ann Coulter can sit through a boo in a way that I couldn't. I probably would have cried my eyes out on that stage because I'm not used to it yet. But she didn't have any intellectual defense for the things that she said. She tried to say that the Iraq War was a victory that was stolen by Barack Obama. People literally laughed. Some of her supporters, I'm sure, laughed because that's such a stupid thing to say. And I really thought that she had an absolutely horrid value system, but she could cloak it in this waspy intellectualism. But there really wasn't any of that. I mean, her defense for her foreign policy preferences was absolute nonsense. It rested entirely on a blatantly untrue interpretation of how Afghanistan and Iraq, those conflicts, went. She barely even got into economic policy. Her immigration policy, which she kept pushing, this is the thing that she wanted to talk about, was nothing more than Donald Trump-level xenophobia. And she, by the way, mentioned Donald Trump multiple times. She's apparently very satisfied with his candidacy. And look, I think that you and I are intelligent enough to say that Donald Trump is an absolute dummy, as he would say. And Ann Coulter certainly has more book learning than Donald Trump, so if she could actually support him, she's either being a troll like she normally is, that's her shtick, or she's actually stupider than we've been giving her discredit for this whole time. And so this is the first and only time, perhaps, that I will ever see Ann Coulter in person. I could say things about her physical appearance. I will not. You can look up the pictures if you'd like. I'm not going to insult her personally because I don't need to. I can simply insult her lack of an intellectual defense for her views, a lack of a coherent ideology, a lack of any sense of human compassion or desire for the rest of the world to flourish in the way that we have. It's just nonsense, and it fell apart under Cenk Uygur's assault. And so I'm very glad that he did it. I was worried at first that he would be brought down to her level, but that didn't happen. She didn't have any interest in even engaging him on the level that a debate requires. She basically surrendered at the very beginning. She rode the debate through on the handful of supporters that she brought with her. I don't think that she made any fans. Perhaps she sold a book or two, and at the end of the day, I think that that's all that she was really looking for. So the video is available on YouTube. If you YouTube Cenk Uygur versus Ann Coulter, you can watch it. I want to hear what you thought about the debate. Do you think that my interpretation of the results is a bit off? Do you think that maybe she made a point? Feel free to let me know about that in the comments, and I'll see you in the next one, guys.